So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, to begin with, this is being posted a little bit late because I just got back from the ball game with the youth group. So what did you miss? Well, you missed. It was going to be a light service. It was going to be a service about recognizing our need to risk a little, to have better relationships, to declare our needs and to communicate. It was going to be about that. It was going to be light and friendly and easy. And then Charlottesville, Virginia happened. And Nazis, actual Nazis, people who carry that name and who who have a policy of white supremacy and a program of violence rooted in racism and anger. They marched to protest the removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee. And those who would espouse a different way of life, one of tolerance and justice and equality, they gathered to counter the protests, and it was ugly, and it was violent. At least one person has died as a car hurtled into the anti-violence protesters. And so somehow we needed to do something more today. And so we started by acknowledging the pain and the hurt, the frustration. We spoke of the clergy who gathered to lock arms and to pray, to have insults hurled at them and applause offered them. Such extremes. And they stayed there in the middle, arms locked, and they prayed for everybody. And we acknowledged that we all have different gifts and different roles to play and different things to offer. And so we prayed that those gifts be realized and shared. We prayed for those who have been hurt and damaged. We prayed for those who are afraid. We prayed for those who espouse horrible attitudes, hatred, racism, and who resort to violence. We prayed for them because we don't want to succumb to the same extreme attitude. We don't want to give in to violence and hatred. And then rather than just greeting each other as we usually do at the beginning of the service, we shared with each other the peace of Christ. We offered each other a greeting, a message of peace, acknowledging that this peace is more than "how are you? Good to see you." That this peace is God's grace that flows through us. We shared that peace and committed to continuing to share that peace beyond our space. We did that. The gospel today was from Matthew's gospel, and it was the story of the disciples out in a boat and the wind and the waves, and they're afraid of the storm, and they see Jesus walking across the water from far off, and they're afraid. They think he's a ghost. As he gets closer, they recognize who it is, and Peter dares to step out of the boat and walk across the water to Jesus. And 2 steps or so in, he realizes what he's doing. He feels the wind, he panics, and he sinks. And Jesus grasps his hand. We talked about that story and recognized that at the very least, the story is telling us that if we want to walk on water, we have to get out of the boat. And by walk on water, we might mean live a life closer to God, walk towards Jesus. We might mean doing great things, doing unimaginable things. It could mean so many things to so many different people. But if we want to do it, we have to get out of the boat. And we acknowledge that most of us, we stay in our boats because we're safe there, we're comfortable there, it's familiar. And even when we hate our boats, we stay. And we talked about that at a personal level, but today we also talked about it on a community level. We talked about the racism and the violence that we see happening all around us, not just in Charlottesville, but down the street, in our cities, across our country, around our world. We see it and we wonder, how could this happen? And yet when a friend says something racist or a relative makes a demeaning joke, we want to say something, but we don't, because we don't want to risk the friendship. We don't want to make a big deal out of it. We don't want to ruin the evening. We don't want to spoil the party. And so we say nothing. We sit in our boat and we hold tight and hope the storm will end. And we wonder why racism is flourishing. We recognize as a community we need to risk. We need to step out of the boat if we really want to walk on water, if we really want to approach God, if we really want to grow in faith, if we want to be who we can be, if we want to do great things. And great things need to be done now. If we want to do great things, we have to stand up in the boat, even though that's risky, even though we're not supposed to. We need to stand up. We need to get up and out of the boat if we're going to walk on water. We need to confront. Lovingly, perhaps, and I don't mean we have to hurl rocks. We don't have to meet violence with violence, but we can't just turn away. We can't just, oh, that's just so-and-so. He always talks that way. No, we have to talk to so-and-so, and we have to tell them. No. And we have to stand up with those who dare to stand. We need to pray with those who dare to pray. We need to engage. We did that today, and we prayed. And we celebrated all the joy and beauty around us. We recognized our world with gratitude, but we recommitted ourselves to meeting the darkness with light, to getting out of the boat, out onto the water, and into the world. That's what we did today. And I'm sorry you weren't there to share it with us. Maybe you'll be with us next week. That would be great, because the sooner we see you, the better. But until we do, God bless you. And dare to get out of the boat, because it is the only way that you're ever going to walk on water. See you soon. God bless.